What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing a range test on the Cunfon RZ800 electric scooter. I was so impressed with the scooter when I actually did the full review, which I'll have a link in the description if you're interested in checking that out, that I had to do a range test on this thing. We'll talk about the scooter and the battery and all that stuff as we were riding along. I'm going to be using Strava for today's test, and we'll start recording. All right, put that in my pocket and let's get this show underway. By the way, look at this thing. It's got so much power. That is pretty crazy. So this scooter has 4 different modes. One of them is called Park. The other one is Eco. We have Sport and Race. For this range test, I'm gonna be using Race. So just keep that in mind when I show you all the stats. Whatever range I'm getting, you can only get more range if you were to use a lower setting or a lower speed mode. So keep that in mind. As far as myself, I weigh about 160 and today's temperature is 78 degrees. Of course, all of these factors come into play when you're talking range on electric vehicles, so keep that in mind as well. Now, my range test, I will try to include everything, and what I mean by that is the majority of a ride will be on like a bike lane, and we're also going to do a little bit of off-roading, and then towards the end we'll do a little bit more street riding and hopefully finish this range test where we started. All right, so here we are in the beginning of this bike path. Now this goes for several miles like this without a lot of interruptions, which is kind of good. I can be on the throttle pretty much at the highest speed mode in the highest speed. Again, as I said earlier, keep that in mind, where you'll only get more range if you're to go a bit chiller or modulate the throttle, so that's something to consider. As far as wind, there's a little bit of wind today. It's not crazy windy, but it is a bit windy, and of course that will also play a factor in your range. So this is kind of more to give you a general idea. Oh, look at that, we got cruise control enabled. This is beautiful. That's the reason why I like the cruise control. And in my reviews, I always say that if you got a long haul or a long road ahead and you don't want to constantly be hitting that throttle, cruise control comes in handy, and this is the perfect example of that. Man, look at this guy. What's going on here? Got himself a whole house. That is wild. Now let's talk a little bit about the scooter itself. So this is the RZ800 by Cunfon, which is a very well-known player and brand in this scooter world. And this one is a 1200 watt 1600 watt peak. The battery is 48 volts 18 amp hours, and that should give us a pretty decent enough range. Now if you guys are interested, I will leave a link to the scooter in the description, along with a discount code where you can save a little bit of money. As far as the range of this thing goes, obviously we're doing a test right now, but Cunfon claims that on a flat road conditions with the load weight of 265 pounds in eco mode, doing an average of 9 miles per hour, you will get 43.5 miles. If you're in sport mode, doing an average of 18 miles an hour, you'll get 34 miles. And if you're in race mode, which is what we are in, doing an average of 31 miles an hour, which is the top speed, you'll get about 21 miles. So as you can see, the different speeds and the different modes do play a huge factor. Obviously we are in race mode, and for the majority of this test, again, I will be full throttle using that cruise control. So again, keep that in mind. Whatever stats we get from Strava at the end of this range test, you will only get more range if you're to use a lower setting. All right, we just hit our first transition. That first bike path ended going north to south, and now we're gonna hit a different one. It's called the LA River, and if you play GTA 5, you are probably familiar with this area. Now, we did lose 1 bar. I don't know if you guys can see the screen well. We lost 1 bar out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of 6. So we have 5 bars left. But that's pretty promising because we're about a third of the way, maybe a little bit more than a third of the way already, so that's good. Now this bike path is not interrupted by red lights as the first one that we just did, so this is pretty much a continuous ride for several miles where I'll be full throttle. And then after this is over, we're gonna transition into street riding to make our way to a little mini off-road trail. Now, as far as Strava, the app that I'm using, I'm gonna put all the information, all the stats at the end of the video when we make our way back, and it will give us a few insights. One thing that I'm looking at is obviously the range. We'll see that. I'm looking at average speed as well, and another thing I'm looking at is elevation gain. Now there is some elevation gain in this route that I chose, but it shouldn't be that crazy of an elevation gain, but it is an elevation gain nonetheless, so keep that in mind. And again, I'll mention is having that cruise control is such a beautiful thing to have. On a road like this, I can have both hands firmly gripping the handlebar and I don't have to worry about modulating it. This guy is not aware. Dude! People are like zombies nowadays. It is crazy. As far as the scooter itself, it's a very comfortable scooter. It does have suspension. What is that? Is that a Suron? That might be a Suron, right, friend? Oh yeah, that is a Suron and that guy's flying. But yeah, back to the scooter. It is very comfortable for sure. The suspension on here is great. As far as the speed of the scooter, as I said, it has a 31 mile per hour top speed. This scooter overall, as an overall package, is a really, really nice scooter. All right, and that was the end of our bike path journey for this test. Now we're gonna hit a little bit of like inner neighborhoods, street riding. I try to make my range test as realistic as possible. So if you're using this thing to commute, you're probably gonna use it on some sort of neighborhood streets. Like me personally, if I can find an adjacent street that goes along a main street, I will always choose the residential neighborhood like this where I can ride. All right, we have now dropped another bar. It actually happened a couple miles ago. So we are 2 bars down, and I just wanted to show you how this thing handles these bumps, which are fairly gnarly. Look at that, it's so smooth. The suspension on this thing is so nice. It's a really, really good scooter. Boom. Dip. Nothing. It's crazy. And the brakes, they are really good as well. For mechanical brakes, they are really nice. The rotors on this thing are huge for the size of the scooter, which is really, really good. We just dropped another bar, so we're about halfway on the battery, maybe a little bit more. Now keep in mind that I'm like literally abusing this thing right now, so I don't really see you riding it as I'm riding it right now. This is like the extreme end of things, even if I don't get the advertised range or whatever. But the route that I planned is about 20 miles or so. I just wanted to be on the safe side. Now, just like a general rule of thumb with any electric vehicle, bike, scooter, you never want to run it to zero. I have people that complain sometimes in the comment section saying, oh, well, why didn't you run it to zero, this and that, da, 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 da. Well, first of all, I don't want to ruin the battery and ruin the product. You never want to go to zero. And second is, if I'm stranded somewhere 5 miles from my house at zero, you know, okay, so you got to see me go to zero, but I'm the one that has to walk this thing home. So don't get mad at me if we finish this range test and the battery is not at zero. You know, I still have to make it home, so keep that in mind. But we are at the Volted Adventures testing grounds. Look at that. Now we'll do a little mini off-road trail, which I already did on this scooter when I reviewed it, and it handled this terrain really well. The camera never shows it over here, but it is full of bumps, ups and downs. But I include this section in my range test just so I can cover all bases, you know what I'm saying? That way you get like an accurate real life range test that includes all kinds of scenarios and situation. Oop, I think something just flew in my helmet. Alright, and that was our little mini off-road section. Now we got a little bit of road riding. The scooter is still decent with the top speed. I do have some head-on winds right now, and it's a little bit of an incline, but we're hitting 26 miles an hour. I don't know if it's due to those factors I mentioned or the battery, but the battery, oh, we just dropped another bar, so we're 2 bars left, 2 out of 6, which is actually perfect because that tells me that the route that I planned was perfect for this. Ooh, it is really windy now. But anyways, I'm gonna make my way back to where we started, and then we'll look at all of the stats. Here we are making our way back to where we started now. We're down to 1 bar, and not only 1 bar, it is a blinking 1 bar. And that is kind of good again, because it lets me know that I calculated this range trip perfectly. Now, as far as the speed, the scooter still has some speed, but we dropped to about 25 miles an hour. And it has a bit less torque, which is typical. It usually happens with e-bikes and scooters. They just want to save the battery, so we'll slow you down. But here we are, right where we started. All right, well, that was a fun trip. Yeah, we got that, I don't know if you guys can see well, but blinking bar. So one thing that I want to say that I didn't say in the beginning is it took me about a 0.7 of a mile to get here from my house that I did not include in the test, so it won't be registered in Strava, so keep that in mind as well. But let's look at our stats. Oh man, perfect. So when I calculated this, it showed me that it's 19.9 or so. Oh look, and they match too. How crazy is that? So we did 19.84 miles plus, again, the 0.7 of a mile that it took me to get here, so around 20 miles, and our average speed was 19.8. Pretty decent. Again, I will have all of the stats up on the screen so you guys can see that, as well as elevation gain and all that stuff. Pretty close to what Cunfon claims, but again, their conditions is a flat road. We were definitely not on a flat road. And again, guys, this is the 4th time I'm mentioning this, but I literally abused this thing. So I was on the highest speed mode, full throttle for most of the time. So keep that in mind. We did the bike path, off-road, street riding. I tried to include everything in the test. And again, if you were to use a lower speed setting, you would definitely get more range than I got in this test. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this range test. If you did, please leave a like on the video. It's free for you. It helps me out a lot. If you want to see more of these types of videos, then definitely hit that subscribe button. But that is pretty much it for me, guys. My name's Tom. This has been the Cunfon RZ800 range test. I appreciate you guys watching as always, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.